friends. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast about the Audubon Park Garden District in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Michael Lothrop, and today we'll be speaking with Aaron Pack, owner and operator of Sushi Lola's, located at 2902 Corinne Drive. You can also visit them online at sushilolas.com or on Instagram at sushi_lolas. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to be a sponsor, please feel free to message me on Instagram at HelloAPGDPod. Thank you for listening. This episode is brought to you in part by Trevor Brown of Fannie Hillman & Associates. For listings, market trends, helpful home buyer and seller tips, email directly to Trevor at fanniehillman.com or find him on Instagram at trevorbrown407. And with me today is Aaron Pack, owner and operator of Sushi Lola's. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very flattered and humbled that you wanted me to be on your show.
Thank you for being here. I'm excited to have you. You are like original Audubon Park to a lot of people. Basically, Sushi Lola's started in 2010, and you outgrew your first spot, which was where P is for Pie was for a while. And you took over the spot where State Farm was and converted that to a restaurant. That must have been a major undertaking. I know that construction took a while and permitting and those kind of things, but I mean, the restaurant is flourishing. Every time I walk by or every time we stop in, it's like, it's packed and it's wonderful to see that. It's like, it's so vibrant there. The food is amazing. It's beautiful food. Everything tastes great. It's a sushi shop, but it's also Korean food. Tell me a bit about the split there.
I spent 10 years in California, so I actually have a pretty decent culinary background by going to travel there. Mm-hmm. I think one of the reasons why California has such a strong food culture is because their foundation for everything is so strong.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have great fruit, vegetables, products, and your base is solid, mm-hmm. the output is going to be excellent. I mean, they just surpassed New York for most Michelin stars.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, especially in San Francisco area.
Sourcing is such a big part of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's where some of the traditional food cultures come from as well. It's what was available, seasonal, preservation methods and things like that. And it evolves over time, but it's what's available and making use of, the best things that are available.
Right. Mm-hmm. I decided to do both because I realized we're in the South.
Yes.
People can be very apprehensive when it comes to...
People love variety too, right?
Yeah, and some are very apprehensive about raw food, like especially the older generation, right? Mm. I'm sure maybe your grandpa doesn't like sushi, or maybe an older person in your family.
Right, yeah.
So we wanted to have variety, just have choices. Mm-hmm. I spent about 2 weeks in Japan during the time I was at the restaurant, so I wanted to learn, like, kind of how Cadence does it, but they learned to cook and stay there. But I went on a food tour, and I just looked and observed and ate the food there.
Yeah.
I realized, like, there was a ramen store right out of Tsukiji, which is that giant fish market that closed down, and they re-renovated it due to hygienic reasons. Mm-hmm. This one gentleman was making one type of ramen. He had 3 vats of broth. He was only making one type of ramen, which is insane to me. 10 people eating, 10 people waiting.
Yeah.
They were standing and eating. This was a stand-up stall, which is pretty common in Japan as well. Mm-hmm. I spent 4 hours at that market. That market was that massive.
Wow.
And I left, and it was 10 people waiting, 10 people eating.
The entire time.
That wouldn't really work here.
Yeah.
People in America like choices.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, I observed that, and that's why the menu's always been massive.
Uh-huh.
It's been very hard to be consistent. I think that's the hardest thing about
when you have all those ingredients and all of those recipes, there is such a variety. And obviously with the rolls, you get kind of different elements that are there, and you can pick exactly what you want. I love that you have a lot of rolls named for local things. You've got the red light roll, you've got zombie roll, which was Zombie Toberfest inspired, magic roll, the Knights roll because of UCF. So that like those like personal touches and your connection with the community, the things that I notice, your connection with the customers, you know, a lot of people on a first name basis, you get to know people. It's like really a community restaurant, and you can sense that. And it's always packed. I mean, you're open just for dinner. You don't do lunch or breakfast. But yeah, I don't think I've ever passed by where it's not, which is amazing. It's like every night, closed Sundays, obviously, but 6 days a week at the heart center of the neighborhood as well. It's so wonderful to see that. And a big part of that, obviously, is the food itself. So yeah, tell me a bit more about what people experience when they come into the restaurant.
I'm very flattered, and I appreciate all of our regulars, and I'm humbled by their repeat business.
Mm-hmm.
Without them, I wouldn't be in business. And I believe for me, they're not just a ticket. They're not just a number,
Mm-hmm.
just like you said. I really look at them and, I connect with them personally.
Yeah.
So when they're going through hard times, I can feel that. I mean, I guess I could say I'm somewhat an empath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's about the relationships too, right?
Correct.
That trust is built. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, when I see you too, and
Yeah.
it's like a warmth in my heart kind of deal.
Yeah,
So,
we've always like known each other just because of our connection with the neighborhood and getting to know, like, yeah, you're just, I feel like you're an easy person to know as well, which is really nice.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm just another human. I breathe the same air and bleed the same color. So
Sure.
I'm nobody different, nobody too special or anything.
But you are special. And
Thank
I
you.
think that relatability and that like that care, it's like you took that research trip to Japan to learn about this ancient craft of preparing fish in a certain way and rice in a certain way. And so those recipes developed over time. And I understand for the Korean part of the menu, your mom had learned those things growing up, right? They were kind of like family recipes and things like that. Tell me about that.
That's correct. We don't use fish sauce for our kimchi.
Okay.
A lot of places will. It's a little bit cheaper of a product to use than shrimp brine. Is how we use ours.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't really put that out on. It's a little secret, but no, I'm just kidding. Traditionally speaking, that's what we do. So it doesn't have that. It has a very different flavor. My dad's parents made kalbi and bulgogi a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. It's just like in America or anywhere in the world, right? The New England clam chowder might be very different, right? But so the ingredients where my grandparents on my dad's side learned to make the barbecues is they use honey.
Okay.
It didn't smell that great, but
Yeah.
it tasted phenomenal. That's the thing that was cool about honey.
Uh-huh.
So my mom doesn't use the honey. She uses like sugar to make it a little bit sweeter. So it's just interesting to hear these differences. Even Busan in Korea would have different styles as well.
Mm-hmm.
We tone down the kimchi though. The kimchi in Korea is much hotter than
Yeah.
it is here, and we have to know our audience, right? You got to know your audience of who you're selling to. So
Yeah.
and that's my least favorite question, right? So this is for people out there who visit restaurants.
Uh-huh.
Is this spicy? What I find spicy, you may or may not.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's a very relative question. So people out there, let me just put that one out there for you guys. So it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a silly question to ask. And there's no wrong or bad questions, but
Yeah.
you got to understand that people have different tolerances for things. And I just think that was one of the funniest questions. So when I hear that question, my response to them is, jalapenos, I can eat those like Tic Tacs. So you tell me,
Yeah.
you tell me what your spice level is, and I can kind of tell you. Because like you said, our spice, I think, is spicy. And, when you go to a restaurant, you're like, you see spicy and you're like, this is mild.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the hot mama roll.
That's pretty hot.
Pretty hot, right?
Yeah, that one's hot.
I haven't tried that. I have this thing, it's really dumb, where I'll start hiccuping if I eat something that's too spicy for me. It's not really, I do enjoy a medium level of spice, but
Sure.
if I start hiccuping, that's my threshold.
Okay.
So,
Have you had the fire roll?
I think I have.
That's a step down from the hot mama.
Yeah, I can do the fire roll.
Then I
It's
think
delightful.
maybe if you go on the hot mama, it's probably gonna be a little bit.
That's my hiccup threshold.
probably because we were making the fire roll and people have come and said, "Hey man, there's nothing hot enough here." So I had to bring it up to another level.
Yeah.
I had to step it up for them. I'm like, okay, you guys want it a little hotter? Well, we can do this.
For those that can handle it. I know I always think about Thai hot. That's a specific level of heat. Like if you know to say that, then that's what you're going to get.
Right.
But I've even had friends that have gone to Thai restaurants and they ask for Thai hot and they don't. It's like the people may not. They're like, I don't think you really know what you're saying, and
Sure.
I don't trust you to give you the Thai hot. But it is interesting how we all have our different thresholds and our
Correct,
different like comfort levels with spicy food.
Absolutely.
I photographed an event that Red Panda did where it was a spicy food eating competition.
Wow.
And it was like 6 courses and it was like quite a bit of food. And it was very intense to watch, but it was kind of like, you know, if you drank water or they had like a jug of milk, then you were out of the competition. And that's on a whole other level, but that's for people that seek that out. There's plenty of it out there, right?
You won't catch me doing that.
No.
And secondly, I heard that milk thing is a myth.
Is that right?
I read somewhere, but I mean,
it just only makes you feel better.
Exactly.
But
I think it's a
not,
mental
yeah.
thing, but I don't think it really does anything for the heat from what I read. But
Yeah, it was kind of fun to watch.
Sure.
But yeah, I felt bad for every one of those people because I'm an empath as well.
You signed up for this.
That's right. That's exactly right.
We have to
you know?
have accountability for people, right? I wouldn't sign up for something like that.
No, not at all. And your menu is very easy to read as far as which things are raw, which things are fried, which things are spicy. So anybody can kind of take a look and be able to figure out like what they're going to be into. And there really is something for everybody. You've got ramen, you've got different noodle dishes. The bulgogi bibimbap is like my favorite thing.
Awesome pronunciation.
I hope that. Oh, thank you.
That was great. Excellent. Impeccable.
Thank you. It just that stone bowl and the fact that you know your food continues to cook as you're eating it, and when you get to the bottom, the rice is like really crispy. That's just one of the most satisfying dishes I think I've ever had, and it's hard not to just get that, although I do love your sushi as well. So sometimes I'll kind of get one and one. But it's such a treasure. And I just like, I love the fact that you're just right there. You're right down the way from red light. I know for a while people were ordering and they could basically eat in red light. I think that was when you were in the other shop and it was smaller.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so that really worked out because it was like if you don't have the seating, but you have the capacity to put it out there. Right. And now I noticed on your website, you don't really have the delivery or pickup options, probably just because you're so busy, like right there in the restaurant. Is that right?
Oh, we had a feasibility issue with that. It was
Okay.
something wrong, I guess, with programming because we would have that button and we tried it and I still have to get it removed. But
Okay.
It was one of those things where we would get the ticket, but it wouldn't go in funding side of things, if that made. So we just
okay.
completely, instead of dealing with the headache,
Yeah.
so we just removed it and it was actually worse. So we used DoorDash. And I
You
think,
do now? Okay.
yeah,
okay.
we do use DoorDash.
Excellent.
I think the button was on there, but I'm not sure. Maybe I need to look
Double
preview.
check that.
Yeah, I've got a lot on my plate. So.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
And the ramen, which is funny, I remember putting that on the original menu. We're on menu number 13, I think. This is my third. No, not nine. Nine.
All
9 menus in,
Okay.
in 13 years, I think.
Yeah.
So it's been trimming the fat, fixing, typos, trying to get the menu more precise and accurate, things of that nature.
And you have a whole page basically of like appetizers too, almost.
Almost. Yeah.
So many appetizer options.
I think that's the thing. Like, with tapas, that's kind of been the trend. But I also feel like appetizers are great because it kind of gives you a preview of what you get at a restaurant. I hate when I go to a restaurant and they have like 3 things and I'm like, I can't eat any of this. It's just,
yeah.
I want something quick. Most of the time when people go to a restaurant, they're hungry.
Yeah.
And if you order an appetizer, hey, I got something for the time being, right?
Right.
And I feel like every restaurant should have a pretty extensive appetizer because that's the preview for your restaurant. That's what people are kind of going to expect.
Yeah. And it is really fun to do that like tapas or small plates idea where you get multiple appetizers and just split it. And that's a great way to sample things as well and to share that experience with friends.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah. You can try. Exactly. The sharing part is probably one of the best things about it because that's what I do with my friends. And I'm like, hey, let's get this. And they're like, you're always ordering. And I'm just like, well, I just want to try it. It's,
Yeah.
you know,
And it's like that family style idea. It does bring us closer together when we're like sharing a meal. That's like
just like
such
Korean
a special.
food, right? The panchan is kind of similar to that. You share that community.
Oh yeah.
The kimchi and the stuff that comes with it. That's something growing up. We have panchan at the table. And as Koreans, we eat that with our main course.
Okay.
Which is kind of like the Korean philosophy, which is, I notice it's very different, but similar to Japanese culture. I believe Japanese culture focuses on one flavor and then they kind of just expand on it. Whereas Korean culinary philosophy is the harmony of the 5 flavors. So that's why you get salty, you get spicy. The little panchans represent that.
Yeah.
And you want that all in your mouth, which is very different than Japanese. I mean, they're both great, but
Right.
I'm just showing you the contrast.
It is fascinating. Yeah, like two different philosophies under one roof is really cool as well. And yeah, I was kind of reading up on sort of the history of both. It was interesting to learn that sushi really originated in Southeast Asia. And then it kind of migrated. It was in China, and then Japan embraced kind of eating the rice with it.
Right.
Whereas before it was like a preservation method and it was kind of discarded, and then it sort of became this other thing. And
OG street food.
Right.
OG
Yeah.
street food.
Yeah. Because it transports, it's preserved, and it's delicious, obviously.
That was a great place, Tsukiji in Japan. It was. I recommend anyone go. They rebuilt it. They put it somewhere else. They just closed it for hygienic reasons. So, but you won't be able to get to the original one that I got to visit, which was I was fortunate enough to.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about fresh. They have very different food laws than we do.
Yeah. And access to things.
Right.
And yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I understand that you, for the menu too, you really do allow your chefs, your staff to be creative and kind of develop some things and kind of it's as you said, like the menu is kind of a living document, right?
Right.
So like new things can be added, and just
Absolutely.
like having an extra ingredient or something and like making it a little differently. That's so cool.
Yeah, I have a good friend his name is D. Him and he's been working on and off with me for 7 years. He's one of those chefs that can just come in your house, look at what you got, and he can whip you up something so delicious. And I appreciate like great looking food and those fancy plates. I appreciate that. I respect that.
Yeah.
I mean, but if the food doesn't match how it looks,
Right.
I am turned off by that, right? But this
Yeah.
guy, man, he gives you lemons. You give him lemons, he'll make lemonade, and he'll make lemon meringue pie. You know what I mean? Like this guy is this guy's a genius. So over
Wow.
the years, him and I've almost like collabed, and he's done a lot. And we are, and I'll add my feedback, and I'm like, hey, I think this will be better with this, and then we work on it, and we're like, boom, we made something even better. And so it's like we just have a good synergy.
Yeah.
In terms of that.
Yeah, I think being open to new ideas and having that collaboration, it really can elevate something. Because you have an idea of what it's going to be, but then it's like, well, we could try this, or we could go this angle, and it really works. I mean, for your menu, it's there's just it's exciting because you can just go back over and over and have a different experience with the things that you're ordering because there's so much on the menu.
Right. And also like secret menus, right? I think Amy Tom, shout out to her. She did an article on the secret menu of restaurants. And so when you're working on something new, I do that from time to time especially when I get inspired by something. And just like you said, the red light roll is new. The Sora roll is the one named after my daughter.
That's so sweet.
And that was, I created that roll. And I think I made 4 versions of that before I settled on the final one. And I just was like, this is a good roll. This is a great roll. And I was like, this is the one that I got to name after my kid.
Aww.
And the tragedy of this is that she doesn't eat sushi.
I was going to ask, yeah. So has she tried her own roll? She hasn't?
It's a little spicy. We put a little spicy ponzu on it, so it's a little spicy.
Yeah.
But it's a little spicy because my daughter can be a little spicy. So that's another reason why I called it the sorrel because I'm like, girl, you are sassy.
That's
Yeah,
perfect.
no, she's great. She is an awesome, awesome little girl.
Oh, I love that. And you basically, we were talking earlier, you're mostly there on weekends, so that's when we can see you. So that would be like Friday and Saturday because Sunday you're closed, right?
Yeah, and the holidays because my daughter, I'm primary parental sharing, so I've taken a step back from being there.
Yeah.
The administrative work, however, hasn't changed or increased, so that's something I still stay busy upon. But when she goes with her mother, I'm there about 6 days a week.
And the holidays probably are
Yep.
very busy
And
too, right?
that's
So
perfect.
that's like,
Yep. So
yeah, that
I'm
works
there
out.
at the busy seasons and fixing whatever's problem. But the great thing is she goes to Audubon Park. So if I need to shout out to the Falcons,
Right?
and
Yeah.
and
Such a great
yeah,
school.
Shet and Trevor too, and
Uh-huh.
all
Yep.
of Sora's old teachers.
That's so
and
cool.
current one. But yeah, so I get to go, get things done at the restaurant. So it's great. I kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, yeah, that really is perfect. And so speaking of kind of doing the books and admin stuff, you have a background in economics.
That's correct.
And you went to UCF?
Actually, I went to San Diego State. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's where I went to do my undergraduate. I learned about. I thought it was about money. One of my earlier teachers was explaining that economics is actually the study of scarcity. And another huge thing I got out of that was always question the data.
Okay. Yeah.
Look at the background of data. Like
They,
see
they,
where it
they
comes.
say follow the money, which is a thing, right?
That's-
And that there's a lot of truth to that, I feel
Absolutely.
like.
You gotta
Yeah.
follow the money. I feel like that's also a corporate America thing. You gotta
It is. It really is. And with a small business too, like making a business viable, it's like you have all of these input costs and overhead and things like that. And I think you're kind of a unique business in the district because you are also the building owner. Like you own your space, which is wonderful.
You've been really doing your homework, I see.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of history here as well.
You do.
So,
You do.
mhm.
So the moving history was an interesting one. I shall name no names, but the landlord of our previous place would not renew the lease.
Oh boy.
But I was already in the process of purchasing that building from Rick Fowler.
Okay.
Great
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Super nice. Very easy to work with. Honest guy. He's also a great guy in the community, I feel. But who says, oh yeah, the insurance guy here? I don't know. It's just not really like something you go eat every day or something like that. But Rick's a great guy.
Yeah.
And so actually that was just going to be an investment property. And once we found out he wasn't going to renew the lease, it was full on. Hit the panic button. We need to get this built out.
Right.
And
Because your plan was basically to transition more slowly, right? Because
no, actually,
you
we
were
were just going to stay there.
okay. Interesting.
Because the the rent was nice, but it was
Sure.
just like I said, an investment. But once we found out that he wasn't going to renew lease, I was like, well, I can't lose my foothold here.
Right.
So it's like that's why I said it was panic mode. So we were looking for contractors. We were trying to get this built out and going through the city.
Yeah, it's
The
a change of use
Yeah,
because it was
right.
just offices,
Right.
right?
And shout out to Main Street, Amy King and Pauline Eaton.
yeah,
They were great, man. They helped me out. I love those ladies. They are phenomenal people.
Yeah.
And they really help local small businesses. So if people out there want to jump into a small business, definitely reach out to Main Street because I think you probably know them as well. I
oh
think.
yeah.
Super
I've
great
been on
people.
the board for
Oh,
12 years now. I'm
Awesome.
actually board president.
Oh,
I know I don't throw that around a lot, but
you're
it
humble.
is.
That's probably why
I try to be.
We
Yeah, indeed.
we get along.
Yeah, it's an important thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's very important to be humble and gracious for the blessings you get in life, and that's to me it kind of warms my heart when I feel that way, And I think that's I think more people should be that way. But
Yeah. And there's a balance between being humble and celebrating like the things that we're doing and accomplishments and things. And I'm still finding that balance of like, yeah, that is something that I'm involved in. And it is great. And it is usually about like giving props to others who are doing great things.
Absolutely.
And yeah, the Main Street program is phenomenal.
it is a great program,
Right?
Right. It was. I couldn't have done it without them.
Yeah, I mean that connection with the city that they really are the liaison. So we have our Main Street organization in Audubon Park, and it's co-funded by the city. So we raise funds, and also the city, funds part of it as well.
Sure.
And we are, we're not employed by the city or anything like that. So it's its own nonprofit. So we work as that kind of that intermediary between the city and the small businesses here. So it becomes really helpful because you have that direct line. And yeah, Pauline retired, and Kyle, who took over for her, is amazing as well. So the future is still looking very bright for Orlando's Main Street program, for sure.
I love it. Yeah, and I think Orlando has one of the most underrated food scenes. Like like I said, I've lived in California for 10 years. My aunt and uncle lived in New York. New York is a great place to eat. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But we're talking about what, 14 million, 15 million people in that city.
Right.
And Orlando's what, with the counties around, maybe a million, I think, or something like that.
Something like that.
I think it's 300,000 though. No, in the main in the city. Something.
It depends on which.
What you're looking
the
at.
The greater
Yep,
Orlando, or
again, always look at the question the data, right? That's kind of
right.
one of those things. And
and we're a big city, but it's kind of a small footprint too.
Correct.
So it's sort of spread out, and
my best friend, he lives in his shout out to Pablo. He's always been a person that gives me constructive criticism, and he's also like D. He can come in your house, and I've been surrounded by people like that, and he's he's shared his culinary knowledge to me, and like I said, he definitely has helped shape me as a cook as well and a chef. But he would come visit every couple of years. He lives in San Diego, so he like I said again, California, great cuisine. So he was like, after San Francisco, I think Orlando's number 2 for me.
Wow, that's cool to hear.
Because I also am a pretty native here, man. I mean, my mom, shout out to her too, of course. We would drive from I grew up off Lee Road. We would drive from Lee Road to I think almost Haines City sometime for food.
Wow.
My mom is a foodie before the term foodie came out.
That's so cool. I love that.
And she's got a palate like no other. That lady, she's like, I like the place, I'm not as picky as she is, but she's like, that's okay. And
she's got very high standards.
She does.
That's
she
nice.
does. And no, that's great. And that's how everyone should be sure. But she, we would drive around whatever, and that was the thing. She was the one that really inculcated this foodie mentality for me. But I know I'm going on a tangent, but
no, it's all part of it for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's the flow of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
But I would bring him, when he come visit, I would have to drive all over town to show him. I'm like, hey, this is a great place. We got to go here. This is a great, and he's still coming, every 2 years, because I've been here since 2010, and I lived in California from 2000 to 2010. So he still visits every two times a year, and he's like just surprised. We have one of the most
changes in 2 years here, too.
right, and we have one of the most diverse culinary backgrounds here. I mean, you got people from South America. You have a big Southeast Asian influence here.
Yeah.
In Tampa and Miami, there's very little Korean options. There's probably 2 or 3 in Tampa, probably more now, but Korean food is definitely in Orlando. We run Korean food in the state. How many is there? At least 4 or 5, right? I don't know. Maybe 6 and 7 now, because
Korea they house right around the corner.
Yeah, and they opened Lotte, the market, which was huge. Yeah. We have a direct relationship with Usong, which was the OG, right? The original Korean market off Lee Road in Edgewater. But and it's just crazy that there's like you said, there's just so many restaurants, and the national average I think is 268 restaurants. Was last time I'm an econ major. I still look at stats. I think Orlando had, and this was 5 or 6 years ago, 330 restaurants.
Wow.
Which is mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
So if you really look at the data, look at the number of people, put all these things together, Orlando's a great place to eat. I mean,
and
it's a great place because it won't break your bank.
It's true. Yeah, that's the big difference too, because you go to California and you realize oh, my dollars don't really go that far here.
Absolutely not.
And obviously the wages haven't caught up here, but I do think that the value, what you get for your money here, is really incredible. Right. And I think that is what a lot of people do find. And, the fact that people are opening these great businesses and restaurants here, and they're staying here. You know what I mean?
Sure,
It's not
sure.
they're just like building something and then moving it to another place, which was happening a lot, but now it's kind of like I don't know that I think people's palates have been refined here. As you said, like just the international food culture here is phenomenal. Like there's just about everything you can get in Orlando,
Right.
as it should be. I mean, it is a big city in
Right.
that way, and it is a
Great
melting pot
hub,
in that
right?
way.
And we
Yeah,
have the convention center, and
right.
I think we have one of the busiest airports in the world. I don't know what number we're at, but
Yeah,
it's crazy how many visitors.
and it just opened a new terminal, so
Was
I've
that seat right
heard
now?
it's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I haven't visited it yet, but yeah. I mean, exciting things, and with the Bright Line, with the train that is going to go down to South Florida, that's I think going to be a game changer in a lot of ways. Things are
Looking up.
things are looking up. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so exciting to talk to you and kind of get the backstory on the restaurant. And I know like before it was Sushi Lola's, there was
The sandwich portion of it.
yeah,
That was man, that was an interesting thing.
it was Lola's Gourmet to go, right?
Yeah. And actually I met Lori. Lori was the Lola's Gourmet to go.
Uh-huh.
We just had product left over, and we had a lady, her name was Maxine, bless her heart. Because if we had made the full transition, this lady wouldn't have a job. That is one of the biggest reasons why we kept the sandwiches for like a couple months, I think.
Yeah, I remember that. And the sandwiches were good.
They were good.
They were very good.
But that's not really it doesn't.
It was a little
fit.
confusing.
Yeah. So we wanted Maxine to stay, because I'm not that type of guy, man. I care about even my employees, so I'm not going to be like, hey, we're just going to Korean and sushi. You got to go.
Right.
We wanted to keep that sandwich bar kind of open and let her try to find something new until she did. That's
how did you link up initially? How did that work?
Lori sold her business to another person. I guess someone my mother knew, and that lady was trying to. It's a sandwich place, like
Yeah.
nothing wrong with sandwiches, but
Yeah.
your hours are very, very finite, right? I feel like with sandwiches, it's a lunch only thing.
Right.
So you're limited income in a way, like
Right.
how many sandwiches can you sell in 2 hours? That's
Yeah.
kind of your window, right?
Yeah.
I believe, unless
Yep.
you're selling dinner foods, and I know there was some dinner foods, but they
And the beverage component is a huge one as well,
Right, but
because
that place-
like alcohol sales.
we
and
did
that
have
sort
a
of thing.
smoothie, right? There was a smoothie, but it wasn't anything like, oh my god, I got to go back,
Right,
So
yeah.
so that place was sold, and it was, the business entity and everything was sold to me. So again, I was like, what am I going to name this thing? And I guess I was like, let me name it Sushi Lola's, and just
Yeah.
kind of go with it, And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's not a bad name.
Honor
for
the old name and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was a shout out to Lori, because Lola's Gourmet to Go, and I met her. She was such a nice lady, and she was like, I'm honored that you kept the name going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, and and I think if I did do another restaurant, I'd probably be called something different. It'd just be kind of linked to me, but
Yeah.
and it'd probably be a smaller menu, man. To be honest, that size menu has been also a bane to my existence at times, because a lot of times things go out of stock, and it's just
Yeah.
you know how it is.
It's hard to keep up with that.
It is
Yeah.
very hard.
Yeah.
It's
That
very
makes a lot of
hard.
sense. And it's like you still want to please everybody,
Yeah.
and they're used to that size of menu, so that's a
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
That's I love your dog. She's so sweet.
Isn't she great? Yeah. Yeah. Misty is on Aaron's lap right now, being very polite. Yeah. So tell me a bit about that change of use. I'm somewhat familiar with it because of Gabby's involvement with East End.
Right.
And so you have basically this shell, and you're converting it, and there's so much that needs to be done when it's a restaurant, in addition to the permitting things, but all the equipment. But it seems like the permitting thing can be like really the nightmare of it, because it's like, well, what is this really, and what is needed, and doing it right, and you don't get grandfathered in the way other restaurants do in a lot of ways. So yeah, tell me about how that process went.
For me, Main Street really helped expedite those permits, and it really wasn't a permitting issue. It was,
That's great.
I don't like to speak
It
ill.
never should be a permitting
No,
issue.
it wasn't. But I hate to speak ill about anyone, but our contractor was a nightmare.
Oh, that's a tough
he
one.
told verbally, and I wasn't experienced with contract laws and things of that nature, and he was like, "Oh, I can get you open in a month. It's no big deal. This is a small job." So I was referred to him by someone as well, and it was like 2 referrals down. So I'm a person who likes referrals, right?
Yeah.
And I like to keep the business local.
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare because I had all these jobs lined up, and we're like, when are we going to open? When are we going to open? And I was this close, literally. I know your listeners can't see it, but literally half an inch from going broke and saying, this is it for me. I cannot sustain another month. This was 5 months, really no income, right?
Yeah.
Who can survive that really too?
Right.
If you weren't prepared, and you're dumping money back into this thing, right?
Right.
So we had paid about almost 60% of the whole, I guess, contract, but because the opening wasn't occurring fast enough, we had to take things into our own hands. So I took scopes of work out, and I had the tile done by someone I know do a referral, and just other jobs where the scopes
You basically had to project manage
Correct.
yourself.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
And he still wanted the same amount, which was insane to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're not even
he did,
on the.
He did less, and he's like,
Yeah,
I'm still going to collect.
That's the full amount, and I disagreed with that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where we had to go to mediation.
Oh, that's
But
tough.
actually, it went into our favor because he wanted I think somewhere around the ballpark of $80,000.
Oh.
Like the contract was only for like $130,000.
Wow.
And we already paid you $50,000.
Yeah.
So we're, come up with recalculate that number and come back to us.
Yeah.
I'll pay whatever
just
I
be
got to pay.
realistic
Right,
about
right.
it. Yeah.
So after mediation, it was $8,000.
Okay.
$8,000 what we owed. And we're like, done. Right? Like
that's
it's
good.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. And
It's hard to navigate when you don't have a background in that too.
Right.
And that's exactly what Gabby does for work. She's an owner's rep. So it's that intermediary between, the contractors and the owner themselves.
now I know who to talk to.
Right? Seriously.
Yeah, thank you
she
for
loves
sharing.
it. Indeed. So there's your referral and anybody who's listening that knows us. But,
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah,
That's
she
great. I know
works
she
for a
would do
company that does that on a corporate level, and
Wow.
she's done some residential and some, different scales. But yeah, she loves it. And it does take that background knowledge and the attention to detail to save you from those nightmare scenarios.
Absolutely. Now I know.
Yeah.
And she does some residential. Maybe I need some residential work soon. So.
Well, she
I'm
mostly
just kidding.
doesn't do residential.
Right.
so-
Gotcha. Yeah, but that was actually the nightmare.
Yeah.
Of our problems.
Uh-huh.
And we still had to pay the mediator, and it was just like this
Yeah.
could have been easily avoided. You didn't have to pay the mediator. I didn't have to pay the mediator if you would have just gave me the right number.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it was. He didn't look at the blueprint. He wanted to put the mop sink, where the dry storage is, because you've been in the shop. It's right behind the server station.
Yeah.
And my father and I were looking at it because he's a general contractor. This guy's. Man, that guy can fix anything.
That's amazing. See, that's a great person to have in your corner too. for
Yeah,
sure.
and I haven't paid for any repairs in 13 years. I mean, my dad was
Wow.
he serviced all the restaurants in Central Florida that were Asian. He's done Peter's Kitchen. Him and Peter are great friends. I don't know if you
Peter's
probably
Kitchen
didn't
is
know
great.
that.
No, I did
But
not. That's cool.
Yeah, my mom worked in a place called Kona Village.
Uh-huh.
So I've got a big background in restaurant upbringing because I would
Yeah.
be in the restaurant drinking a Shirley Temple, at age 8 on the waiting for my mom to get off her shift and not knowing anything. I'm like, I'm just gonna enjoy the Shirley Temple and hang out with Frank.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my dad did that crazy duct in the back of the building. I mean, he did it himself. I mean, the man is he's amazing. I mean, he changed my wheel bearing with hand tools in 10 minutes. And he diagnosed that my wheel bearing was off because he was in the car. He's like, son, you're gonna need a new wheel bearing. I'm like, how the heck did you know that? Just from this. And I'm just like, wow. And I'm still blown away. That guy could fix anything.
That's
like I said.
inspiring.
And if you look at, like I said, I know you've walked in the back. I've seen you in the back. So you've seen that crazy contraption looking thing. But that's actually called a low profile duct. And he actually did that with workers and employees. But he put that was his last job, you could say, because he's like 80, man. He
Yeah.
retired from AC.
Good for him. Yeah.
And that was his final job, which that makes it even more special for me.
Yeah.
That he would do something like that for me, and God bless him. He didn't ask for a dollar, which
That is
is
so sweet.
obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are other dads out there, but I'm sure there's also the flip side where like, Sean, I got to charge you for this, or whatever. But
That kind of support like really gets you through the tough things too,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. And that all of that background and just knowing other restaurant owners, and it's like it is a community. It's like everybody kind of works together. It's like we're all kind of in our own silo, but also we invite people in and we go visit other people's, and like, yeah, I think that that's part of what makes this Orlando community in this neighborhood really special. It's just
Synergy.
all of that synergy, right?
It's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. I love living here. This is a great city, and it's still got so much more potential,
Yeah.
And like I said, I love the city. It's great. I mean, I hate the infrastructure. No offense.
Sure.
I mean, I get it though. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
I took a trip to the Everglades. I went on a kayaking trip and listening to this guy, Garl is his name, I believe, and he was a National Geographic guide down there.
Oh, wow.
I mean, the guy was walking barefoot in the Everglades. I'm like, no way, you're catching me doing that. But I was surprised the water was very clear.
Huh.
And he told me the Everglades is a swamp, but it's a giant river system too.
Yeah.
And actually, Central Florida is the supplier of water. I didn't know that. I mean, most people probably didn't know that.
Yeah.
Lake Nona just devastated that, actually. The city of Lake Nona, no offense to Lake Nona, they probably didn't know the environmental impact, or maybe they did, but who knows. But I'm just saying, I don't think it was on purpose either. But
Somebody knew, but not necessarily the people that are residents and business owners.
You're
there.
right,
Yeah.
right. The people who live there, but so they have those giant, I guess, those cement pipes, and they're trying to correct the mistake.
Okay, that's good.
So the rain and stuff that we get in Central Florida actually trickles down there and supplies a lot of the water to the Everglades. But it really shows you, like,
Yeah.
how, just like we're talking about with synergy, it's the same with the environment, right?
Right. Yeah. Everything
would've
that
thought?
we do has somewhat of an impact. Yeah.
And we just don't know long term, right?
Right. And paying attention and talking to other people and just kind of knowing other people's stories helps that too.
Great. You learn from other people's mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
you don't.
And other people's strengths, and
Absolutely.
and their lessons learned as well. And it's like even you talking about how much Main Street, the organization, helped to get everything moving smoothly. And it's like you will almost always hear permitting and inspection things, and that's usually the nightmare on top of just the work that needs to be done.
Sure. Main Street, you guys, like I said, you guys came through for us. You
That's
guys were
amazing. I love that.
expediting and talking to us and saying, hey, you guys need to do this.
And we have to mention
Yeah.
Jen Marvel, of course, as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
because she's been our executive director since, I think, 2010. So right around that time as well.
I thought it was Cat Quaz too.
She was in the beginning. Yeah.
Right. In 2010. I think for what, 2 or 3 years, I thought.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because I remember being in the old location, it was also Cat. So shout out to Cat too, Cat and Jen.
Indeed. Yeah.
absolutely, both of them.
Yeah. Founding member.
I just saw Cat not too long ago. That's why, and she's
Yeah.
doing that art gallery downtown, which I'm glad for her, because she needed to do something she loved, and art was definitely something she loved.
She has all of this creativity, this abundance. So that is cool to see.
Cat
Yeah.
has great energy.
Yeah.
She's a great lady. There's, she was the one telling me, hey, there's a Zombie Toberfest, and man, and Jen too, like I said, and she's like giving me heads up on things. And during COVID, she was great. She was like, hey, there's these things you could do. I know, Aaron, you're a restaurant guy here in Audubon, so here's some emails for you to help you navigate through these tough times. And in COVID,
That's a whole other topic.
we went through 2 recessions, really. Like right after the home crash was the first one, right?
Yeah.
And technically, and it was like 2007, but opening a restaurant was very frightening. People were still on that fearful side. They weren't like throwing money away.
Right.
So I was definitely, I threw up on the first night we opened, actually, to be honest with you, because I was so nervous. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I maybe seem like a people person, but at that time
This was at the new location?
the old one,
Or the
2012,
old one?
very
Interesting.
the first
Wow.
day. It's like when NBA players like, oh, I threw up.
Sure.
I guess I was just that nervous.
All of that anxiety, all of that.
of not knowing if I'll succeed or fail. And
Wow.
So that was a lot.
You put a lot of pressure on yourself, yeah?
I worked 6, 7 days a week, man. Like we didn't
Yeah.
have a dishwasher, and I did it.
Wow.
After front of the house was clean, swept, and mopped, and
Yeah.
then it was dishes. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't get home till like 12 or 1 in the morning, even though we closed at like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
But I paid my dues, and that's why
Yeah.
I've taken a less of role. 13 years,
And it gives you that exact idea of like what it is to do all of these things too. And you employ a staff to do these individual things, and it's like I've done all of these, so
Right.
I can help you. Here's the best way to do it, and that sort of thing. And I think that's very valuable to bring to it as
Absolutely.
a leader as well. Just to have that knowledge.
right. And no one's more important than anyone in my restaurant. That's how you guys all have different jobs, but no one's more important or less.
That's a great philosophy.
You know,
Yeah, it's true.
Because that's the thing. Without a dishwasher,
Yeah.
I've done it, so I know how much
Yeah.
of a nightmare it is. And the dishwasher's the most looked down position. But I'm like, no. So the guy we have, he's a nice guy. He's great. He's doesn't complain. He works a lot. And Sean too he just retired, I guess, from Lola's, a kid that grew up across the street from me.
Oh wow.
And he, I'd call him throughout the years, and he'd be like, "Yeah, I can help you out," in case we had a no call, no show. So Sean has been with me for almost 10 years, and then he's now an accountant. So good for him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, I couldn't have done it without these people.
Right.
There's no way,
Yeah. Yeah.
no way I could do this by. You can't do any project like that, So that's why I feel like I'm blessed, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful, and I appreciate all the blessings I've gotten in my life.
That's
I
amazing.
can't imagine doing this by myself. No way.
Well, you have kind of in a way. So it's like, and you can't imagine like continuing that, right?
Right.
Because it's just like, that's not sustainable. I understand why I need a team and why everybody is important. And it's
Correct.
like,
Absolutely.
yeah, if a dish comes out and it's not spotless, then that's an issue. So everybody does play that like equally important role.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I love too, is just, when I'm there, the food is very consistent, right? I'm like, oh, you guys forgot this, add this on there, let's go. And I just kind of float around and do everything when I'm working,
Sure.
So now because, little
Because
personal
you know that
information.
they've got it,
Yeah.
but then like you can jump in where you need to.
Exactly.
Right? That's
I have
cool.
I have the bug out bag with knives and everything in the kitchen. I remember losing someone in the kitchen, which is very detrimental too, because there's a fry cook and 2 people that cook the Korean food, but we were short staffed for about maybe 3 months, and it was me in a polo and a chef's apron, heating up at 105 degrees in the kitchen, and helping them with the Korean food and fry foods and expoing, and it was just like, oh man, this is where I don't want to be still, the year 9. But you got to
But
do
you
what
don't
you got.
have an option at that point. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I guess to people, listening to this too, it's like you have to do what you have to do, and you're not above anything if you're a business owner.
Right.
You're not above anything or anyone when you're a business owner.
Yeah. You got to jump in. You got to make it happen. If somebody isn't there to do it,
You have to.
it's all you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And even repairs when you're the owner, like
You're responsible
it's
for
all you.
unless you're renting.
Right.
But
And
I'm
even
not.
even that, I think a lot of people end up taking it into their own hands, because it's like to wait to go through that process. It's like, well, I can just kind of take care of this myself.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done that too, and saved a lot of money doing it ourselves. And I'm kind of handy, actually. And when I look at the new gen of guys, and I'm like, I'm glad I learned what I learned.
Yeah, exactly. That
I'm
stuff
glad I
really
learned what
comes
I
in
learned.
handy for sure.
And my father has taught me a lot about, hey, you got to clean these coils every month. And,
Yeah.
we put dates on our water filter. I don't know if you've just had the regular water that we serve.
Yeah, it's
but
great.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I'm an attention to detail guy. You come to my house, I can tell someone moved this cup 1 centimeter. That's the type of eyes I have, which is kind of annoying, but it's a great thing to have. So when I see a dish come out, I'm like, oh,
It's like
you guys
put your power to good use.
I do.
right? Yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, oh, you forgot the radish sprouts on the White Russian. So and that's one of the common things that I see our chefs do. Oh, you forgot the spicy ponzu. And but people are human, and
Yeah.
it's not like I'm yelling at them. I'm just like, oh, can someone do that? And
But it elevates the dish like
does.
just to the level that
Right.
you want it to be.
it
Like
has
that's
to be consistent.
right.
That's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my goal.
And different with different staff and all of the things that there are to know. And it's easy to miss a little detail like that sometimes as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what a thing to juggle. It's almost like an orchestra. It's like,
Yeah. You're
somebody has to be the conductor.
or a puppeteer right now. All these
Yeah,
fingers kind
yeah.
of controlling and shifting and moving. Because I'm everywhere when I'm there. There's a place I'm not.
It does feel like a big show. I mean, it's so cool, watching at the sushi bar them do the rolls and all the knife work. It's just like it's such an art and it's so beautiful to watch. It's
is.
really cool.
Yeah, and I think between the 4 or 5 guys we have there, I think they have like 60 years experience total or something. It was more than that, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and also shout out to Rachel. She did a documentary on us. Did you know that one?
I looked for it. I could not find it.
It's on IMDb. She was a Full Sail
Uh-huh.
student, but she won a couple of awards with it.
I saw that.
And I
yeah.
think this was when I was like fat. I looked at the video the other day and I'm
Yeah.
like, man, you were a chunky monkey. And
just a different version of you.
I was.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was, you know what, man, I was so scared because I don't do well on film and video cameras make me nervous.
Yeah.
So she was interviewing a couple of guys and it was you actually so now you mentioned that it reminds me of that documentary. It's Rachel Bettis, I think, Bettis, or just IMDb it, and you can probably do like my name or Sushi Lolas, and you'll see it there.
Yeah. Is it streaming? Do you know if it's available to watch online?
I think it was on is it the Vimeo or something?
Yeah,
it's
okay.
on there. My friend was like, I couldn't find it either, and my buddy's all big into media, and he was like, oh yeah, here's a link for it, and I'm like, oh, there it is. This is really really cool.
Do you enjoy watching it, or is it?
No,
Okay. Yeah.
I've watched it once. My daughter's in there, and she was like, "Daddy, that's me," and I'm like, "Yeah." The cover is Grandpa and Grandma holding her hand,
Aw.
and she was like, I think 2 or 3 or something like that, and
Yeah.
it was a cool picture because like
I did see that picture.
You did,
So,
right?
Yeah.
I
It's very
hate
cute.
being in the spotlight. I'm not a spotlight kind of
I
guy,
understand,
man. I think we
yeah.
had a Sentinel article,
Uh-huh.
and I told them, "Hey, take a picture of my mom. She's the personality here too. She's great. I get that from her. She's a great lady.
She is a big personality. She's
oh
wonderful.
my god, dude. That's probably why I'm on the whole opposite end, But no, she's
yeah.
a great like she's where I get that whole I treat you like family.
Yeah. I get that.
My mom is like that, and she's a foodie. She is such a foodie, man.
You can tell how much she cares about it. Like, yeah, she is very, very warm when we go there. Just like, make sure you have everything. It's like she knows that you dropped a chopstick, and she's like, "I'm going to get you new chopsticks," and she's like on it, right?
That
Yeah.
sound
Yeah.
is in my nightmares, or any. Oh my god, that sound! I hear it sometimes, and it's like one of those things that are on a broken record, and it's like ding ding, and I'm just like, oh my. Anyways,
Yep.
yeah. You ever been to a restaurant called Roma Restaurante in Apopka? It was a long time ago, and it was and that's why I was saying it's a foodie. As a foodie, it's like that. The grandma walked around, and that's when I guess when you brought up my mom too. That place was golden. The house was connected to the restaurant, and across the street was the Walmart where I guess it's OBT and 436.
Yep. Okay.
That's where that restaurant used to be.
Oh,
And
yeah,
the
I missed that.
and the grandma, and that's what I mean. Like I've seen Florida's culinary, culture evolve.
Yeah.
And but like I said, anyways, so she would walk around with this heavy Italian accent and ask how your dinner was. And I think that place, when I was in school, my mom was like, "Do you want any food?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want some Romas," right? So she would dry ice that thing and send it over, and it was that's how much I missed.
That is special.
They
That's
had
so sweet.
It was my mom. Like I said,
Oh
my
my
mom,
gosh.
I owe so much to her. She's the reason why I feel the way I am. She's the one that personally shaped who I am as well. So shout out to mom, of course.
That's amazing.
She's
Yeah.
a great mom.
Yeah.
I couldn't have asked for a
It's
better
inseparable, right? I mean, especially when it's a good experience. I think that we just we value that so much, just having that upbringing and having that warmth of the household and that knowledge that's passed on and the fact that you can work in the realm of this is something that she cares so deeply about, and you're continuing this tradition and this these family recipes and these really, it's so cool to see that.
I wish my daughter was up there, but she's definitely not a foodie. But then, I think I was a bit picky at her age. So I hope she grows out of it. But, every year I think she she expands her palette. So
That's gonna be fun to watch. That I'm
excited to see what type of person she's gonna be. So
it's in her DNA. So
it is.
It's just a matter of time. I think when we're young, we don't really understand those things. Yeah.
Because I had a Chef Boyardee in college. I'm like, this does not taste. It is so nasty. But when you were like 5 or 6, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh.
Yep. Absolutely.
My first dish I made was, I think, instant macaroni at like 7, and then ramen at 8. Like the instant kind.
Yeah.
And people were eating like these little cup of noodles in college. I'm like, ugh, why? How could you eat that? And I pull out the stuff from the Asian markets. They're like, what is that? That's like this on steroids. There's like 4 bags in there. I'm like, yeah, bro, this is the ramen to get. And then you got to crack an egg in there. Like totally. That was. One of those things, man, that's also shaped me as a ramen. The thing was, I had ramen in my menu in the first one. I don't know if you realize that, but 2010, I had ramen on my menu.
Yeah,
and people were like,
before people really knew, like they wouldn't get that at a restaurant, right?
Well, I think it was California too.
Sure,
it was more common in like L.A., Japantown, and San Francisco. Because they have a huge Japanese community versus us. That so I was like, okay, and the ramen noodles are handmade. They're actually shipped from California. I don't make them because I looked at, like I said, when I went to Japan, there's no way I'm gonna be up at 4 a.m. So we get
plus
the ingredients.
Domu has that covered too, right?
Yeah, and great place. I love their wings. Great place. Yeah. Shout out to Domu guys. Shout out to all these great guys doing things. And I'm really, like I said, when I hear them winning awards, I'm proud of them.
Right.
That's cool. From Sato, good guy. Shout out to all these guys doing great things. And I feel like I'm the old man on the block now. Yeah. I'm in my 40s, man. So
you're so young, but you've just been in it for so long, too.
Right.
That's the thing.
And the Cadence guys too, they're killing it. I love seeing it. It's like I want all of these people to succeed.
Yeah.
All of them. I know. And sometimes people will see me and they don't even know who I am, and I'm like, that's the best. I rather remain under the radar than.
I like being behind the scenes.
I do.
As well.
I do. And Courtesy is my safe haven. That's where I go.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the Courtesy guys.
I know.
Billy too.
Spot.
Oh my God, I love that place.
Yeah. I know. And all these places just within reach of this neighborhood too. There's so much here, and it's always cool to bring friends around to like get the tour and see what's new. And there's a lot of new places that I still haven't visited because there's just so much out there.
Yeah. We did a charcuterie. My buddy Pablo, he bought the ingredients from East End Market. So he did his own chart. Man, that guy, like I said, that was the best charcuterie board I've ever had.
Wow.
And he whipped it up himself.
That's so cool. From like Tonda, from La Femme de Fromage, and Hinckley's.
Yep. Actually, we went to all of, you called every one of them. Yeah, man.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's a real treasure here.
It is a treasure here. It's one of our most slept on neighborhoods, I think. But we're on the map. But if, it's like one of those, if you know neighborhoods, I feel. Because we're not like in a busy intersection, right? No. We're not like right off I-4.
We're tucked away.
And that's the greatest part.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. I think that's part of our strength.
That is, and that's the gem of Audubon Park. I love it here. Yeah. I'm just really glad the reception has been, for me, really great. We've got great people living in this.
Yeah, it's about the people, and then
that's who makes the community, right?
It is, and then it's so much about like what makes it a destination neighborhood too. It's the restaurants and the shops,
right?
And like that's it. It all comes together, and the people support the businesses here, and we all thrive because of it. Because it's we keep it local.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. Like I think Audubon started that, right? And I feel like that. Audubon's the whole.
Been a champion of it for a very long time, for
Eat
sure.
local, like that. This is definitely the heart that pumped that into the rest of. I feel like that. Anyway.
I feel like it is,
but I'm proud of Audubon too. So maybe I'm a little biased.
It's been the messaging here since Main Street started, and that was really a big goal of it, and it continues to be so, and it does translate well, and people do. They understand it and they gravitate towards it, and people want to live in this neighborhood. I mean, property values have gone way up, as you said. Insane. The scarcity thing, it's a perfect example of that. So it's great, and just thank you so much for being such an important component to what makes this neighborhood great, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me today and share your story. it's so cool just to know you and to get closer to you and kind of get the backstory on some of these things.
No, thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah.
I feel like this was overdue, but you know what? I feel like we're closer now.
I
You know,
agree.
you know, it's like this, you know, the little heart symbol for
I
me.
know,
You know?
man. Same.
So,
Same.
you know, anything you ever need, or if I can help you out with anything, you know, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
Nice
Same.
thing about being a restaurant guy is everyone's got to eat. So I know
Right.
the different plethora of people, and
Uh-huh.
it's been great people all through and through.
Yeah, and we should all eat well. That was one thing
Yes.
that I learned that I really loved. Kind of doing the research is food as medicine.
It is.
Being, that is the traditional Korean thought of, basically like let the food do the work first, and then like, and the fact that medicine does come from food in a lot of ways too.
Absolutely.
So it's all intertwined. It's very important.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. I'm so honored and flattered that you asked me to be on the show.
For sure. And just to so people know, what are the socials that they go to find Sushi Lola?
We do have an Instagram page, a Facebook page. I'm not too very active because I
That's
kind of
okay.
do
Yeah.
everything on there. But any really important news, like closures or things, obviously like hurricane stuff and other things that have happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think one day we lost like 3 staff members, and there was no way I could have operated on just like 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was, we're like, we apologize. Tonight we have to cancel dinner service. It's only happened a handful of times, so that's where most of my important announcements do go, is on there.
Yeah.
But I'll try to be more active and post more things. I know I don't, but
I mean, there's a good amount. Like people will tag Sushi Lolas,
And they
so
do
it's
that. Love y'all.
Yeah,
Love
right.
y'all.
So it is Sushi_Lolas.
that's correct.
on
Yep.
Instagram.
And it's just I think Sushi Lola is just on Twitter, which
I
sorry.
never go to Twitter. So
good,
it's okay.
good. I'm glad. I'm just like, well, maybe I should make one. Maybe I shouldn't. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's absolutely right. Thank you again.
Yeah, Instagram is the spot. So, yeah, Aaron, thank you so much for sharing, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hello, APGD. A neighborhood podcast is brought to you in part by Stardust Video and Coffee, Audubon Park's beloved neighborhood cafe, bakery, bar, and meeting place, located at 1842 East Winter Park Road. We're also sponsored by Red Light Brew Pub. Founded in 2005, Red Light is widely known as the source for world-class imports and microbrews, a wide selection of natural wines, plus award-winning beers brewed in-house. A full kitchen is in the works with an amazing menu by Chef Jess Tantalo. Located at 2810 Corinne Drive, please check out Red Light for all things beer and wine and soon food. Our theme song is by Christopher Pierce, and special thanks to Trey Hester for all of his help in making this podcast a reality. We do hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please click subscribe and leave a review if you'd like. We'll see you next time.